Sweet, fine.
Okie doke. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Thanks
Hello,
so much
hello.
for joining us. This being the first virtual live event that CubeWorkspace is putting on. If during the course of today there's anything that you want to ask or comment on, feel free to drop it in the feed. We'll do our best to answer any questions you may have. So I guess let me start by talking a little bit about how we came to the conclusion of doing these events. One of the important things I think of choosing to be part of a shared office space is that you become part of a business community, a support community. And obviously the last year has had its challenges where we would in the past have done a social event or a breakfast or a talk. Those just haven't been possible.
True.
And we just decided that I think a virtual event was a great opportunity to open up some dialogue and discussion, and it would supplement what we haven't been able to do in the past.
Right.
Obviously, we hope to be doing that in the future, or at least in the very near future again, because there's nothing better than a nice face-to-face chit-chat.
Yeah, true, true.
Okay, so this is in essence what is going to supplement those events. And the other thing that we've come up with, which I think we're working pretty hard at this stage, is to come up with a members directory, so that to supplement where you would have this business and support community, you have the ability to go and search out services or products within a specific group of individuals who you know have something in common to yourself, have been through the same business challenges that you have, and that you're able to then support each other from a business perspective and choose to do business with each other.
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
So obviously today the subject that we're going to be talking about is startups, the various challenges and opportunities that face any kind of a startup. To give a little bit of a background, we sent out a survey to all of our members. We had a fantastic amount of feedback, so much so that we've got some content for a couple of months to talk about great things from the general economy and outlook to mental health and well-being, and even if you choose to work at home, how to be as efficient as you can be while doing so, while working from home. So I really look forward to those conversations as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe one of the things I forgot to talk about is myself. So my name is Sean Friedrich. I'm the financial director of CubeWorkspace. And I'm very lucky to be joined by Gal Ezra, who's Managing Director of Empower Funding. Someone who is a lot more experienced at social media, live feeds than myself, so I'm very thankful for that.
You did well. I mean, it seems like everything's working great. This is awesome.
You've been part of Cube's family here in the Waterfront for 2 years.
Yeah.
You yourself are a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You've been through the process of startups. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you got to where you are, and maybe you have a journey you can share with us with regards to your startups.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you for having me as the honorary first guest. I'm honored. This is great. And a little bit about me. So first of all, I was born here in Cape Town, and I lived here until I was about 6, 7, but then I moved to the States. And then when I was about 19, I moved back here, not by choice, by the way, and I'll explain that in a second, and what that whole journey was that you wanted to know about. But that's the accent, is Israeli background, by the way, speak Hebrew at home, that's my first language, but it's a mix between a little bit of American, a little Israeli, and I used to speak Afrikaans when I was little.
What a great melting pot.
Yeah, it's a melting pot. So I'm actually South African and Israeli passport-wise. I don't have the American passport yet. But
what happened?
We never got along being there. And then, so this is the crazy thing. I got here when I was 19 to just renew my visa, thinking I'd be here for 10 days, renew my visa, and back to the US I'll go. And I got here and I got declined the visa. So, okay, declined to go back home. By the way, my parents were there, everyone was there. I just came here alone to do a quick renewal. So we chatted to the immigration lawyers and they said, another month, you'll be here another month, we'll sort it out. It didn't get sorted out. A month became 6 months, 6 months became a year. It was 3.5 years later before I went home. Yeah, so I was stuck here just thinking I'd be here for 10 days, but I knew no one when I got to Cape Town. Didn't want to be here. Was living, my grandma luckily lived here, so I was living in my grandma's little flat, driving her car around. Just no one, nothing, on my own, figure it out at 19 type thing. That's how it started for me. And within about 2 years, I had a business that was running well, which was, and still is, except for COVID, but it's a festival business. So I have a festival background where we do events called We Love Summer, Feastival, Kinky Summer's a New Year's Eve event, and Future Frequency. We have 4 different major festivals that saw about 40,000 people a year across, I think it was 6 cities, 2-3 countries. So
How did you land upon that after being stuck here in South Africa?
so that was the thing, is I got here knowing no one, and then how do you go to like, okay, you're running festivals where you obviously have to like know people to like bring them to your festival. So it started very organically. I just always liked bringing people together. Even when I was 16, 17, 18, I always liked bringing people together for games nights and, you know, just my friends. So when I got here, as I would meet one person, another person, I would bring them together for little things, activities, like nothing fancy. I'm just saying like a games night, okay? And then that became, 20 people would show up, 30 people would show up.
The
and
cops
then
started to get called.
Exactly, the cops started to get called, like, the neighbors weren't happy. And then one day we did this thing and 100 people showed up, okay? And I was like, oh my God, we made it. Like 100 people came to our get together, whoa. In my mind, I felt like I just did a festival for 5,000 people with those 100. But it gave me enough of a thing of like, maybe if we really market, it was me and 3 other guys, if we really market for a few months, we'll get 300 people to show up. So we came up with this brand called We Love Summer. And we said, okay, we'll really market and 300 people will show up. And on the day, 900 people showed up. And really the cops shut it down. But we had 900 people show up. We were like, oh my God. 3 weeks later we did another one, 1,600 people showed up. And so we're like, okay, we have, our marketing machine is working, our product is, people like it. And that's how the festival business was born. And we just did more, and we did Feastival, which is a food festival, and we just, it grew and grew and grew, yes. So yeah, volume is low. Maybe we need to talk louder. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
We'll try and be louder.
We'll try and be a bit louder. No problem. I can be loud. So that's how the festival business was essentially started.
Yeah.
Let's just see that all is perfect. Yeah, that looks good. There we go. That should work.
We'll hustle in.
We'll be a little closer. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. The CDC now said 3 feet apart is better than 6 feet.
Oh, okay.
You can be 3 feet apart, apparently. So very breaking news. So anyway, basically that's how the festival business was born. The business ran for 7 years, no problem. It still exists. It will continue after COVID, of course. And I also have a finance business. It's a totally different side of things. So I say there's party in the front, or business in the front, party in the back. It's like a mullet.
You got a mullet.
I have a mullet. It's business in the front, party in the back.
Okay.
The front is the finance business. We do short-term financing in the property industry.
Okay.
So that's the journey. Got here, knew no one, started this festival business, it grew, started a finance business, and here we are today.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I mean, already from what you've told me, I think you're well versed in what it means to be a startup. You've done the hard miles.
Yeah.
And maybe this is about the right time to have a disclaimer to say that,
Yeah,
that any advice that you take from this discussion, take it on your own, because we're having a glass of wine and a beer and just shooting the breeze. But
what we say cannot be used against us in a court of law. Yeah.
So I mean, let's get stuck into the nuts and bolts of what it means to be a startup.
Yeah.
So when someone mentions startup, what does it trigger in your mind? What do you think of when someone says a startup?
Yeah, to me a startup is usually the first 2-3 years of being a business within an early range of income, where you're still establishing yourself, and where you're still building up your income to a certain threshold where you are sustainable and are now expanding beyond the beginning coping. It's taking time to establish yourself as a beginning business, I think, in a nutshell. I think it can be, people can hop out of the startup phase relatively quickly, or it can be a startup for a while because you haven't quite found your feet yet. But I consider it, when I think of it, I think of an early phase business that's still trying to generate enough income to sustain itself and be profitable.
So I find it interesting, your perspective of that, because you've been through it.
Yeah.
I've never been a startup. I've always joined within an established company to bring on my skill sets, and you often find that a financial skill set is one of the ones that comes towards the end of a startup. Maybe sometimes forgotten. I'll try and big myself up here a little bit.
It's actually the most important. I think a lot of startups get that wrong, that they don't care about the financial side properly from day one.
Yeah, early enough.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I mean, when I think of startup, you immediately it triggers images of what everyone speaks about, the unicorns, the Airbnbs, the Ubers of this world that have become startups largely from a technology or software background, and they're either an overnight success or they're an overnight failure. And I think, you know, after thinking about the topic a little bit more and researching it, it's more than that. It's really, those are the 1%ers. A startup can really be anything. It can be a small scale business, like you alluded to, where it becomes sustainable. And then often you decide how far you want to take it. And there are startups that have few employees and a lot of customers. And those are the ones that like venture capitals are looking for, and they're more of the dream story. And then there are startups who are longer term, family grown businesses. They provide a service that relies on the more revenue you generate, the more staff you need to provide that service. So it's not a multiple type of business. And I think there is a difference between the two. While some of them face the same challenges, I also think that their approach to those challenges differs depending on what they have to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I do want to highlight again about the finance aspect that, you know, funny enough, in the festival business that we had, I also ran the financial side of things, payments and things like that. And I think with startups, it is, you can have so many different forms of startups. You can think of it as like the Uber or whatever the case may be, but you can have a business that sells hand cream, or I don't know, wax or beeswax, whatever.
Delivery service.
Anything in the beginning phases. And I think one of the biggest challenges or mistakes that startups make is not handling their the admin side correctly, where admin is 80 to 90% of a business's success, and it's the least focused on. Most people don't actually handle the admin right, and when a business is eventually successful, by luck or by doing it by whatever instinct, they then say, oh, maybe we should bring a finance person. Maybe, you know, they think, oh, maybe we should. But then, oops, they have holes in it that you come in eventually and correct. But if you, from day one, handle the finances and the admin right, your successes are monumentally increased, your chances of, just by correctly handling your admin.
Absolutely,
so you need to be organized.
I mean, so thinking of one of the biggest challenges that I think a lot of people think a startup has with regards to funding, a big part of that, it's not whether you can sell your idea or your concept, it's whether that concept is convincing. But a lot of investors see through the glitz and glamour, and they want to know that you know how to run a business. And a big part of that is the admin side of it, and knowing the fundamentals behind running your business, not just I have this great idea, it can make me a lot of money.
Right, 100%. You
I had a great analogy when I was looking at beer brewing and a lot of these craft breweries that have popped up in the last 5 or 10 years, many years before in the States. One of the guys said, if you think you like brewing, change your mind because you better like cleaning. And I think the perception of what a business is and the reality are two different things.
Totally. The people really just think surface level when it comes to running a business. They don't account for the background work that it takes and how organized you have to be successful. I cannot stress it enough. And that's what the cleaning, right, is the organization, sending the emails, making sure your legal basics are in place, making sure that your finances are right, knowing where every cent is going, especially at the beginning, setting up the foundation that's structurally sound is, look, we think with the percentage of startups that fail is
Enormous.
Yeah. And a large majority of people don't know why. That's why they keep failing. If they knew why, they would solve the problem, right? But you can account for the fact that most people don't want to be organized, most people aren't organized, and most people don't even know how to be organized if they want to. And that is what most people don't do. I promise you, the ones that succeed are organized.
So almost instead of differentiating yourself from potential competitors, you're differentiating yourself by the fact that you're organized, you're goal-driven, you have everything you need running in the background smoothly. And it's a very difficult process, because that's something that people learn over many, many years.
It's actually not difficult. It's not too difficult to do. I think that the perception is that it's difficult, but anything is difficult when you don't know. If you don't know how to do something, it's difficult. Like at the beginning, to drive sounds difficult. When you know how to do it, it's actually really simple. So it shouldn't be a difficult thing to be organized. You just need to learn. You just need to learn how to do it. Of course, in this platform, we aren't doing a whole lesson right now on being organized, you know what I mean? But just knowing that it's having the viewpoint of it's actually simple, I can be organized, and I will be organized. I just need to learn. There's just something I don't know.
And eventually, I think one of the opportunities or a lesson to be learned as you evolve as a startup and reach, say, a slightly more mature phase, is to have the foresight to know when you're out of your depth. So when you're a complete startup and you're having to do everything yourself and juggle all the balls, that's fine. But know when is the point that I can no longer do X, whether it's sales or marketing, because you need a team around you to build a startup. Unless you're some whiz coder who comes up with some piece of software in your garage, but even then you're going to need people behind you to support you. And knowing when those skills run out, ultimately you're going to reach the end of a marketing skill set or a finance skill set, or any of those.
Yeah, exactly. You have two options. Either you learn how to do it or bring somebody who can. Because what happens with most organizations, most startups, the person that's starting the business is very good at one thing. Okay, let's say I'm a dentist. I'm very skilled at being a dentist. So I know how to look in the mouth and I know what to do. But I have no idea how to build someone, how to manage the entire treasury department, how to market, how to promote, how to hire, how to fire. I don't know how to, check the ordering and the supplies. And all I know is how to be a dentist. So then you start a business, and even though you're a great dentist, your clinic fails because you don't have all the other parts of the business. So you have to either, like you said, hire people that can do that, or quickly train yourself on the other departments and realize that the business actually has 7 main divisions, and you need to know all 7, where most people are good at 1. And they're expert dentists, but they don't know anything about the marketing department, as an example. So learn how to market yourself. At least in the startup phase, sometimes you've got to do it all, but you have to know that there's something you got to learn. Or hire where you're like, I don't know how to market, so quickly get people on your team that can do all the parts.
And I guess the catch-22 is that it's great ultimately to know a little bit about everything in your business, and in that way you're able to manage those people who are looking after those aspects of your business. But at the same time, if you take it too far, you're ultimately taking away time from what it is that you do really well, and it will come back to haunt you.
Yeah, totally. It's a tricky balance, right? Because on the one hand, you might fail, and then you can't do it at all. I mean, if you don't have a clinic, you can't be a dentist at all, because it's over. Maybe you'll go work for someone, and that's different. Then you can work for someone as a dentist, but your dream of having your own clinic is over. Or at the beginning, it takes a lot of learning and a lot of work and a lot of realizing there are other areas that I need to know about. And you have to understand that there is a difference between the people that fail and you in your business, because if you don't level up in that, you will find yourself
Yeah.
failing.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's a good time. We've got a question a bit about branding and market penetration
Yes.
as one of the skills within marketing of a startup.
Yes. Okay. I got it. So I'm just reading. So, food delivery. What can you suggest as an opportunity? So the question. What can you suggest as an opportunity / idea to further penetrate the market and grow brand awareness? Okay, so I can give my idea for sure, but you can go ahead.
Hey man, you're speaking to a finance guy about marketing and you're insane. It's all you.
Okay, fine. The basic principle that I use with all the marketing is communication out equals communication in. It's a rule you have to know. Communication out equals communication in. If you want more in, you have to put more out. It works like the night follows day. If you communicate out, you will get in. Not necessarily from the direction that you think you get it. Like I could talk to you about, I could market to you, you could get my brochure, but then that person comes from, where did they come from? It was somehow from
That's
you.
proper brand awareness when someone else passes on the knowledge and you go, but how did you find out about me?
Yeah, totally. It's like, what? But that is when you communicate out, it comes back in. From different directions, but it comes back in. So the first thing to know is communicate out more, and in parallel, don't cripple yourself with needing quality. Most people cripple themselves with, I can't communicate out unless it's a quality piece of marketing, unless the brochure is made on high gloss, it's expensive, and I can't afford it right now. Rather send out 10,000 pieces of marketing, let's just say flyers, okay? 10,000 flyers for now on the basic, cheapest paper, on toilet paper, okay? Put out 10,000 pieces of marketing on toilet paper, then 100 on a nice, glossy brochure. It's
a great idea. If you can actually put it on toilet paper, people definitely going to see it, right?
Yeah, they see it, oh wow, they roll it out, they're like, oh wow. Yeah. But really, you put it out there. So to promote that, my general idea, I have to understand more about what you do and everything, but the general idea is just promote more. It can be social media, it can be expanding the word of mouth among your friends and growing it through that. It can be through brochures, it can be through Google ads, it can be through YouTube ads. There's a million ways of doing it. But first understand, communicate out more, and don't worry about the quality right now. Just pump it out.
Yeah. I think that's very relevant if you're looking at a fast food delivery service.
Yeah,
Get
exactly.
those little flyers that, like, they may look cheap, but they're in your mailbox. And when
Yeah.
you're hungry and you get home, who
Mhm.
you gonna go to, right?
Exactly. Just cheap. I mean, as long as it gives the details that it should give. I've seen flyers that are terrible. I look at them and I'm like, where do I even call? The marketing doesn't explain anything to me.
Yeah.
And I've seen very, very cheap ones. I one time hired a handyman because he put a little thing in my windowsill that was super simple. I'm a handyman, here's my number if you need me type thing. And I was like, okay, done. It just was so clear.
Yeah.
He couldn't afford much. He was really just starting as a handyman.
Yeah.
But I hired him because of this really simple marketing that just gave me the data.
Yeah.
No quality at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, we've chatted about the dark side of startups, and I guess
Yeah.
the fact that most startups fail. I don't know the statistics. I know it's high.
It's very high. Yeah.
And one of the things I heard, which was a great comment, is fail fast.
Mhm.
Rather than so many, and this actually was within a South African context. It was the Wits Business School
Mhm.
that had done a study, and it
Mhm.
said that there's so many startups have these great ideas, and they take off, and they sit in this little gray zone of mediocrity, and are happy with that,
Mhm.
and yet could be so much more.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess, realizing where you need to cut your losses, start again, and rebuild. And it's okay to fail, and not to take it personally, I guess.
Yeah, it's okay to fail. You're playing a game. You have to be willing to win or lose with the same level of enthusiasm. Like, I won, amazing. I lost, amazing. I'm playing a game.
I've learned a lesson. I've learned something from it.
Yeah, I learned something. I won, I lost. It's all good. It's just a game, right? At the end of the day, that's, you have to really look at life and as a business as a game. So you might fail. I don't know about if I'd like to fail fast. I would rather win quickly than
Win
fail
quickly.
fast. Yeah. I don't know about, it sounds really good. Fail fast.
and repeat.
Yeah, it's like keep failing fast. I don't know about that.
Hopefully there's a success somewhere along the line.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so ideally you want to win, right? That's the idea, is to win. But if you fail, it's part of the game. And okay, that's what you're playing. It's a game. And as long as you play like that, it actually isn't really so much losing.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
so I agree. I think you need to go for it, and I think the main danger zone that a lot of people, a lot of businesses fall into is they stagnate, and they think that the fact that they're stable is actually a good sign.
It's an achievement.
Yeah, like we're stable. Stability is the biggest red flag. It should be like immediate red lights. If you're stable, nothing stays the same in this universe.
You're the only one stable, which is not a good thing.
Yeah, and by the way, even you, nothing stays the same. This painting, we think tomorrow that it's the same as yesterday. It's gone down. Over time, it's decaying. Everything goes down. Anything that was the same, over time goes down. Nothing stays stable. It either goes up or down. And if it didn't improve, it went down that day. So people see in business and in life, look, if your body is the same as it was yesterday, it's worse than yesterday. It's not better. You're either improving or not. And in business, people think, I'm stable, so this is good. And then they're in that mediocrity zone that you were talking about, and then they fail. When you are stable, you need to immediately know, I need to quickly improve, because if not, I'm heading actually...
Someone else is overtaking you.
Yeah, or I'm just heading off a cliff. I'm not even on the road anymore, but I think I'm driving. If you're stable, you need to quickly bring it up, quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just thinking about other challenges that startups face, it's really, it's a multitude of things that people need to overcome.
Yeah.
Not least where we are currently in our economy.
Mm-hmm.
Under normal circumstances, in a first world country, a startup is a challenge. Anyone doing business in South Africa is already a hero, because you're taking on a much bigger challenge. There's multiple layers of extra stuff as a business you need to deal with.
Yeah.
And obviously, wherever there's risk, there's opportunity.
Yeah.
Currently, what is your view of the economy, where we're going in the next year or so, without taking away next month's conversation?
Yes.
But as a startup, do you go, well, gee, there's no ways I'm ever going to survive in this environment?
No, so the general thing is that the economy is going to be terribly disastrous in 2021 or 22. I'm, by the way, the biggest optimist ever. Generally, I'm like very much an optimist, but just looking at the data, there's going to be a major financial disaster coming up, and as long as you know it and you know why it's happening and what to do, you'll be fine. But in general, this whole COVID situation can actually be the best thing that ever happened to you. I look at the COVID thing as wonderful, not because of the horrible things that happened with the virus specifically, because people died and it's terrible, and so that aside, but the economic situation, or for a business, it can actually be the best thing that ever happened, because you have opportunities to overtake everybody else that is busy being, that's like head spinning from what's going on. If you know what to do, COVID can be the best thing that ever happened to you. You can overtake competition, you can expand rapidly if you know the steps to take. And at the same time, being aware of what's going on and what's happening with the economy. There will definitely be challenges ahead. You need to protect yourself in certain ways, or maybe protect isn't the right word, but just prepare maybe. Just prepare.
Yeah.
Protect gives me the connotation of I'm scared.
Yeah.
So I don't think you need to be fearful and protect, but I think that you need to be just prepared for what's to come.
I think the threats of the economy as it is currently are probably more relevant to established businesses, because you either geared yourself hoping for a lot of growth, and all of a sudden it disappears and you have no war chest, then you have a problem.
Yeah.
As a startup, in a way, you have nothing to lose. So there's a lot to be gained famous saying, don't miss a good crisis.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't waste a good crisis.
Yeah,
Don't miss a
there you
good
go.
crisis.
Yeah.
For sure. If you don't want to miss a good crisis because it's an opportunity. I think it can be scary for a startup, or it can be scary for any type of business. Everyone was going, whoa, what is going on right now? But it's really about, I think so important from this conversation, because we're limited on time and we're not doing a whole webinar on like preparing your business. But I think that what's important for people to take away is a change in their viewpoint, because your viewpoint will determine how you act. If you have the viewpoint of fear, you will act out of fear. If you have the viewpoint of I'm in control, then you will act that way. So I think the most important thing to take away from today is the viewpoint that something can be done about it. You can, no matter the circumstance, you feel like, whoa, I don't know what to do, something can be done about it. You can make it an opportunity. You can thrive, not just survive, thrive through a crisis. And even with the coming economic situations or disasters that are coming, something can be done about it.
Yeah,
you need to just know that.
And I mean, that speaks to a lot about another challenge that often doesn't get talked about for startups, and that's timing.
Mm-hmm.
You can have the best idea in the world, you can have a ton of funding behind you, and you try to execute on it, and the timing is just not right.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of the likes of Airbnb.
Yeah.
When they started up, it was also during a financial crisis. And the reason or part of the reason they were successful is because they were trying to sell an idea. If 15 years ago you had to say to someone, hey, open up a room in your house,
mm-hmm.
and we'll pay you, be like, no thanks, I'm okay not having a stranger in my house.
Right.
And yet, with a bit of a financial stress, people were like, I could do with the extra cash. Okay, I'm going to get over this hurdle.
Yeah.
And that ultimately comes down to timing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you probably can't anticipate when timing is right, but you can certainly become aware of when the timing is not right.
Yes. Yeah, I agree fully. It's so important to see. I think one of the points we were even speaking a little bit about earlier is the problem that you're solving wanted? Is there the problem, or
is there a need, a real need?
Is there a need? Is there a nail that needs to be hammered?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people just have the hammer and hope that there's a nail, but there's no nail.
Yeah.
You need to find the nail. So it's similar to timing. You might bring something out and nobody is interested.
It's way too early for the early adopters.
Yeah, and you can still, there is a way to generate want and to make and to educate, and which is just a much longer process.
Bit of a longer road.
It's a longer road, but Airbnb, for example, did that, or even Uber. They went to the whole thing of, I remember I was actually a good friend with one of the people that established Uber here in South Africa, and I remember when she first told me, she was in charge of the entire African continent establishing Uber, okay? And I remember when she first got here and told me about Uber that was going on in the US. She's an American, and she came here and she was working on Uber. And I was like, what? Like, you order a cab from your phone and some random driver. And she was like, no, it's working in the US right now. And she was like, we're gonna bring it to Cape Town. And I was like, wow, okay, like, interested to see it. Let's see how hoping for the best, you know what I'm saying? And within a couple of months later, it was established here. They were here, it was going, I was using it. So they had the long road of explaining it, educating, showing, creating want in me for the product. So you can, but you have to, it's easier when you know that it's a need at the beginning.
And then I think the timing is even more critical because you land on the other side of the scale where someone else has got into market first and there's competitors and the margins are down, and then you're like, oh, a little bit late.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Okay,
yeah.
So timing critical. The other thing, maybe one of the things that people think about most when they think about startup is, how do I raise capital? I've got this great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I have every hope that it's going to work out, etc. What are the first steps that I need to go through about raising capital?
Yeah. The first thing in my eyes, first of all, before you even try to raise capital, make money with what you have. Most companies that start up, and most people have this false idea that you need to have something before you can do. You don't need to have anything before you can do. Just do. You don't need anything else. Just do it. Like, okay, Nike, just do it. I'm not trying to go there. It just came to me.
You're gonna get a suit, man.
Yeah, no, sorry. But really, the idea is just do what you can do with what you have. You don't need to have anything else than what you have.
Basic proof of concept.
Yeah, basic proof, anything. Also when you hire someone, I've hired people and they tell me, oh, but I can't do this because my computer is old. Man, just do what you can with do it. Just instead of the time you're wasting thinking about how your computer is old, you can just do it using your old computer. You have to just do with whatever it is that you currently have, and if you're a business, you don't need money to produce. Just start bringing income. Day one, produce. First of all, bring income. Then you can start looking for funding. And of course, that again, communication out, start going, asking, talking, friends, you can talk a little bit about your different ideas of how you can get income as well, or funding of any kind. But at the beginning, just produce. You don't need a big investor behind you to produce. Just start.
Yeah. No, I think you've taken it one step back from where my head was even starting.
Mm-hmm.
For me, when I thought of a startup and wanted to invest, the amount of capital given what I wanted to do was quite high,
Mm-hmm.
and the means to do it wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have to look at, if it's not a service or if it's not a product that's within your means to produce and get it out there,
Mm-hmm.
you would then take the next step, which is to look at capital acquisition. And for me, the first step is, if you can't prove it to your family or friends, you're not gonna sell it to anyone.
Right.
So, and that's where maybe the real commitment is are you prepared to take money from your friends or family,
Yeah.
and risk their wealth
Mm-hmm.
with an idea you have?
Right.
And I think as you look at funding in a business, it sort of scales in proportion to the business itself. When you're really small, you look at the small opportunities. You're not going to go walk into a big investment bank or a venture capital company and say, hey, here's my big idea. If you do and you succeed, please tell me how.
Yeah.
But you're going to start out small, and that'll ultimately get you to what you were saying, which is make it happen, generate that first bit of revenue, prove that it works. And there is very few evidence that you can come up with that will support revenue generation without actually generating that revenue. You can tell a fantastic story,
Mm-hmm.
but there's nothing better than saying, hey, here's what I've been able to do thus far.
Yeah. Have I put in the hours? So far, show me that you've done something with what you had. And by the way, you'll be surprised. A lot of businesses that think they need investors don't, by the way. A lot of times, there are certain businesses that I understand require investment to grow. But I would say, I don't know, off the cuff, 60% of people that think they need investment actually don't. If you look at, as an example, Sarah Blakely. I don't know if you know Sarah Blakely. She's an entrepreneur that is a billionaire. She's the founder of Spanx, which is a woman's basically like undergarment fitwear brand and a shapewear brand. And she started with $5,000. She's still 100% owner of Spanx, and has a $1 billion business. But she said she sold fax machines, got it $5,000, which is all she needed, and figured out her way to getting into some of the biggest stores like Nordstrom, etc., without investment. Okay, people ask me all the time with the festival business. So these festivals cost a few million rand each. Who invested in it to begin with? We never took on investment. Most other festival organizers that I know took on investment because they thought that's what they needed to throw their first festival. And when you take on investment, because you have the money, you don't have the drive to actually make enough profit.
Yeah.
So for us,
it's no fear factor.
Yeah, because I have money, I'm comfortable. But we did every festival, we have never taken on a cent of investment because we started small, we got enough profit, we made another bigger one, and a bigger one, and a bigger one, and whatever the product is, start small. It's okay to start small and generate enough to grow, and you might find you don't actually need investment. Of course, some businesses have to require it, but a lot of businesses will find that they don't need it.
So interestingly, to that point, a question around is a business plan really required even if you don't need financing?
Yeah.
And it's a good question, because you go, well, I don't need to sell this to anyone, I'm good to go, off we go.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, welcome to correct me if I'm wrong here, but if that might last you a month, 6 months, a year, but eventually you're going to get to a point where you run out of creativity and flying by the seat of your pants. You need some, to your point earlier, some form of organization and planning and administration behind it that keeps you on track, that keeps you in check when no one else is looking. You know, you may not need an investor that's over your shoulder saying, hey, how's it going? What's happening with my investment? But you do need something to keep you on track. So I would argue that a business plan, even in its most basic form, is critical to any kind of startup.
Yeah, I think it's great to be, again, the more organized you can be, the better. If that's in the form of planning, great. I never really had a formal written out business plan with my startups, never proper plan, but I also instinctively knew where I was going. It's important to know where you're going. So a plan shows you where you're going. If I had it crystal clear where I'm going, so I knew my route because I knew where I'm going. And so naturally the route was like, oh, that's how you get there. But at the same time, it's a combination of coping. You cope with, oh my God, the day-to-day chaos, putting up fires, and getting organized. Handling, getting organized. And then if you can, and especially if you have other partners and you want to be on the same page, a business plan can be fantastic because you can get on the same page and know where you're going. But the planning has to be done correctly because most people plan and the plans are useless. They never even follow them. They just plan and it's a
pretty
cool
picture.
Yeah, they write something down so they feel good about themselves that they wrote something. But the plan doesn't end up getting followed because they also don't really plan correctly. You have to have a strategic plan, which is a 1 to 2 year plan, tactical planning, which is down to the months, operational planning, which is down to the weeks, and then down to your to-do list, your today. What are you getting done today? That today's step forwards your tactical plan, your operational plan, your tactical plan, your strategic plan. Because most people do tasks today that don't actually forward their plan.
They think they're making progress.
Yeah, they're doing stuff today, but it takes them nowhere on their plan. So you have to plan all the way down to today and do steps today that get you on your plan. So if you plan correctly, beautiful. Just most people make plans that,
Interesting. So
yes.
Another question, most practical tips for researching competitors or competitor research?
For researching competitors, interesting. Look,
espionage.
Go ahead. Yeah, espionage.
Spy espionage.
Send a spy and just, put them undercover. Russians are great at this.
Look, you've got the gold standard. You can go to someone and say, I need market research on X. But obviously most startups don't have that ability to do that.
Yeah.
So then I guess this is where the hustle element comes. It's an incredibly important part of being an entrepreneur and hustling and finding out ways to understand the market, understand competitors, and understand opportunities.
Right.
I can only speak for ourselves, and I know that we have a strategy of visiting some of our friends as guests and just seeing what the lay of the land is and where there are opportunities or where there are things that we could be doing better or that actually we are doing really well. So we get down onto the ground floor and try and do it in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's sometimes very simple steps. I mean, it can be for me, I can talk for myself with the festivals as an example. It was also, we went to other people's festivals, saw what they were doing and kind of thought, okay, here's what we can do better, learn from them just by going and experiencing what they have in the open market. The festival, I can go attend, I can see, I can improve on it. When I started the funding business, there were companies that were around for 20 years before we ever started that do what we do. And it was as simple as really just Googling them, asking our clients that had previously used them or had heard of them what they did, and speaking to them even. I have a relationship with my
I was just about to
competitors.
say, maybe sometimes it's not about being clandestine and
Yeah.
going undercover. It's actually about just approaching people, and I think often you'll be surprised
Yeah.
by how accommodating they are,
Mhm.
because they don't necessarily see you as a threat.
Yeah.
They actually see you as almost driving their ego and go, this is fantastic. Someone's actually come to me and wants some advice.
Yeah, totally. I love that.
I always, there's a saying, and I probably get it wrong, if you go looking for money, you'll get advice, and if you go looking for advice, you might just get some money.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think, there's nothing wrong with being open and honest. I can only speak from my experience as well.
Mhm.
When I was getting into some craft beer and playing around,
Yeah.
it was an awesome industry because people were so accommodating, and
Right.
you could phone them up and go and chat, and literally there was no such thing as a trade secret or this. But
Yeah.
that's not true to every industry. I know as a juxtapose, there's the wine industry, and good luck finding anything out from anyone about how that works.
Right.
So it really does depend on the industry.
Yeah, it depends for sure on the industry. I think most of the time what you said, just communicate with them if you want, but more so just research them online. You don't need to do anything too fancy. You'll get the idea. Go on their website. I mean, I looked around so much at what the other people do where I knew them well, and then I also in the same time was always, how can I do it a little bit better, a little bit better? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, we didn't finish up on funding. Obviously, you want to
Yeah.
you prove your idea. You want to work as hard as you can with the means that you have. Then you
Mhm.
move on to friends, family, and fools.
Yes. I
then-
love that. Yeah, that's hilarious.
There's then you can go sort of. One of the things that I found very interesting is that maybe a couple of years ago, getting funding as a startup was the biggest challenge. But
Mhm.
actually, today we sit with an environment where you have companies who are purely dedicated to investing in startups and great ideas.
Right.
The venture capital groups, the angel investors, and then
Yeah.
you also have, if you wanted to go an alternative route, you have crowdfunding. It has its pros and cons, of course, but that's another mechanism by which to do that. And then if you are truly, you're probably outside of the realms of a startup, but you go to normal institutional lenders. Once your business is established and you need, a startup funder is not exactly going to give you cash to go and have as working capital and pay yourself as a big salary. They want to see that going into growth,
Yeah.
because that's what they're investing in. But ultimately, your business reaches a scale where you do need a significant amount of working capital, potentially. And that's where you would then look to an institutional investor, go to a bank, look at your overdrafts, look at your loans. And by then, you've built up not only a track record, but maybe you have assets behind that can support that.
Right.
So those are all funding mechanisms in my mind. The other important thing that maybe people can use as a strategy when they're looking for funding is that not everyone with money is going to be a funder.
Mhm.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
Very few people are going to blindly give you a blank check and let you go and do what you want to.
Right.
And if that's not the case, you need to have a relationship with that person.
Yeah.
And you need to have a pretty close working relationship. You need to know that you have the same ideas and end goal in the end. Otherwise, what you're going to land up with is a big hiccup somewhere along that business where the guy's like, oh, actually, you're taking a different direction.
Mhm.
I'm out, and you've got a gap to fill.
Yeah, totally. And that conversation, to have that conversation at the beginning, that you guys are aligned, and to have it all, I think one of the most important things when you do take on funding, which usually the funder will insist on, but have a proper agreement in place. Understand who does what the roles are, what their limitations are, what your rights are, because they're coming into your business now, and you need to understand who does what and agree on it up front. Don't just, oh, I got money, and you're happy in the euphoria of money, but yet you haven't discussed, okay, so what does this mean for my business? Because the business is what you want to have come
Yeah, the
first.
investor's saying, I want dividends, and you're saying, but I've got some growth I need to fund.
Exactly,
You know?
exactly. And important, don't take the money unless it's going to growth. The money should go for growth. It's not just to live a more lavish lifestyle. You don't take
That's
the
a
money.
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, that's a Ponzi scheme, exactly. But yeah, that covers that very well, actually.
Cool.
We have a question here. What makes a successful marketing strategy?
No, that's all you again.
Me again? Okay. Successful marketing strategy. I think that the most important thing with marketing, first of all, is to understand the purpose of what marketing is. And Marketing's purpose is to create or intensify want, somebody wanting you, creating that want or intensifying it, and ultimately selling something. People say, oh, my marketing is to create awareness or to create exposure, or my marketing is just to put my name out there. If your marketing just puts your name out there, your marketing sucks. That's not your, it's just,
throwing money away.
you're throwing money away, it's not good marketing. If your marketing sells something, it's good marketing. So you have to have the purpose of, in your marketing, to sell. That's the first thing our strategy is aligned on. Number one, how do I sell? Then with that in mind, good, I'm gonna communicate out, again, back to communication out. And there's a few different ways you can do it. You can go on Facebook, you can go, all the million different social media options. You can do Google Ads, you can do whatever. Start with just one. Pick one that fits your particular area. And you can, if you want, just speak to me and I can give you, depending on this business, what it is, I can direct what I think. But you have one that you focus on. Build that one, get one working, just one. Now people try, we're gonna do Facebook and we're starting an Instagram and we're investing in YouTube and then they don't know, nothing happens. One, get Facebook ads and Facebook, get it nice and establishing and doing something. Once that's running, then say, okay, great, let's expand into, now we're gonna do Google Ads. Invest in Google Ads, grow Google Ads, and make that proper. Then you do the next one, and then they can start working together. But don't shotgun, because you'll shotgun into nothing and you won't have anything. There's a lot, we can do a whole thing on marketing, a whole talk on marketing.
Yeah, like any relationship, when you start up a relationship with a marketing company, if it's not your skill set, what you're looking for is someone who's bringing a skill set to the table that you don't have. And I think one of the fundamentals that I found very fascinating about marketing, because I sit in my little finance bubble, and you slowly, as you start to see all the elements of business, start to appreciate what those elements bring to the table.
Yeah.
And one of the very basic ones that I found incredibly fascinating is that marketing is not just about selling, because you can sit there and say, this is my product, it's beautiful, it's pretty, it's shiny, but a person is then going to make a logical decision. So a good marketing company to me is one that can tell a story and can appeal to a person's emotions and go, well, this is why I really need this product. I feel like it would be beneficial to me.
Yeah.
Those are the things I find quite interesting.
Yeah, they create a want.
Yeah.
How they create the want, it can be in many different ways. It can be a story, it can just be a sexy ad, like Apple, they have very sexy ads these days. At the beginning it was more of a think different was what changed it. They had the think different campaign, so that was, but it created want, but it sells something. If your marketing is really, really good, by the way, marketing and sales and PR are three different things. There's marketing is a different thing and different behavior to PR. And marketing is a different thing and a different behavior than sales. But if you market well, you don't need salespeople other than just to upsell. Apple has such good marketing that you walk into the store, like, here's my money. Yeah, the only reason you need a salesman is to upsell.
Explain it.
Explain a little bit maybe and say, do you want the AirPods too?
Yeah.
But other than that, you're sold because the marketing was so good. So they create want and their marketing sells you. So just creating that feeling, that emotion that you're talking about is that want. And when you have the want, you'll go and buy. So that's very, very important to have that come about. On top of that, you need to know how to do sales and how to do PR. Yeah.
Okay. Sure, we've had, this has gone on way longer than I thought it would ever actually.
Yeah, oh, wow. Wow, I didn't even feel that. I did not feel
I'm impressed that you really can talk.
I can, I told him before, I was like, listen, if you press play, I'll go.
Just go. I don't know if there's anything, I mean, we've previously spoken about so much that we probably haven't covered. Is there anything that you wanted to close on, that you think is a fundamental, if we don't have any other questions to answer?
I just think that, again, the most important point of view for anyone working in a startup, running a startup, is we got to keep the group upbeat, always with the point of view that something can be done about it. You have to know, whatever goes on, something can be done about it. And most importantly, to remain in very good communication internally. Your enemy, I say, your opponent is outside your group, not inside your group. And a lot of times people get that confused and there starts being problems inside. Don't get the opponents confused. Your opponent, assuming the group dynamic is correct and you're in good communication and everyone's upbeat and everyone knows something can be done about it, your focus is on outside the group, not fighting inside the group.
You want a team you can go to war with.
Correct,
Yeah.
100%.
That's
So
okay.
that's very
Well, I mean,
important.
maybe I can carry on talking as well, but
Good pleasure. I mean,
I think one thing that the current past year has taught us, and the adversity it's put us through, is it truly, even existing established businesses, it makes you think differently. You have to shift and pivot. You have to look at who you're surrounded by. Are these people in it to win it? Are we just going around a long song and dance to ultimately end at the same point? And maybe it speaks to a bit of your hiring, firing that you were speaking earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe we can chat about that for 5 minutes.
Sure. I think that's very important when you hire right away. Day one, the person needs to bring a result. Some result, day one, they need to be bringing something, okay? It's not going to be perfect, but you see they did something. They brought a result. They were good.
Enthusiastic.
Yeah, enthusiastic, but really result. Something that, wow, okay, they delivered. Even if it's small, you see, even if they ended up doing the dishes in the company kitchen just to help out, and while they
Which
were
you
waiting,
don't need to do here. by
which
the
you
way.
don't need to do
Just
at
letting you know.
Cube, by the way. That's why you shouldn't be at Cube. You don't need to do it here. But let's say it was something, they
Yeah.
brought some result, they made something happen, you see that they're contributing to the team day one. Within the first few days, you need to know, you'll know if that person that you hired is there to stay or not. The minute you see that there's anything else than being upbeat,
Complacency.
any complacency, any poisoning, you can bring someone in that just poisons the group. Anytime you see that, you need to get rid of them quickly. And it's very important because the group dynamic is so important. So when you hire, you want people that are upbeat, that share the common purpose of your group, and that are bringing results right away. And if they don't bring results, then really do not waste your time with them. People have seen that with COVID, they became better all of a sudden by necessity. They had to cut out who
Yeah.
they didn't need.
Yeah.
But had they been more on top of it before, which is why we're talking about it now, you need to not have people on your team that aren't bringing results.
Yeah.
Don't carry the dead weight. Just you can theoretically change them. Don't bother. Put your efforts on growing the performers, the one that are actually bringing results. And again, we could have an hour about hiring and firing and how to tell if somebody's good.
I think
even
we're
before
probably
you
going to
hire
have
them.
to have a follow-up
We'll do more,
discussion
we'll do
about
more.
startups.
We can
There's
do a lot.
lot to be discussed.
There's a lot to be discussed,
Awesome.
but that's just a general few kind of ideas to think with your team is how do you kind of make sure that the person produces.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your time, your willingness to participate.
I love
It's
this.
been fantastic.
Yeah.
You've taken a lot of weight off my shoulders. I appreciate it.
Anytime. It was a great dialogue. I love your viewpoints and just everything that you brought to discuss. And I love that we still have more. We were
Yeah.
saying 40 minutes. Can we get through it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have plenty to talk
That's
about.
cool.
Thanks to your
Yeah,
preparation.
and thanks everyone who tuned in to watch.
Yeah, and the questions. I appreciate all the questions.
Yeah. And again, if you want to reach out, I encourage everyone, Cube member or not, it's easy enough if you are within Cube Workspace as a member to I wouldn't extend the hand of friendship just right now, but wave and smile and chat and have a look at the client boards to see who's there and who's available, who you can ask questions to, ask for advice, support each other from a business perspective.
Yeah.
We're working hard to make that not just a localized workspace environment, but something that we can implement nationally. And I think at the moment we've got over 300 clients. That's a big network, which is incredibly important, not only to startups but existing businesses. So encourage everyone, get involved, and we'll continue to do our part. As soon as we can get events up and running, we're going to be doing that. And until such time, we're going to have hopefully some interesting topics of discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
There's great people around the office, and it's great to chat to them and meet them, and to work with you guys is fantastic.
Awesome. Thanks,
Okay,
Gal.
thank you.
Cheers, man.
Thanks so much.